This video relates to the week 1 of Computing for Engineers, and it's looking at the New York Lottery Take 5 task. And in particular, I'm going to talk you through points 1 to 8 from the task sheet, and then point 11. If you recall, in the session we said 9 and 10 were too wide a remit, too broad to actually be able to answer easily. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is import the data. I'm using Excel 2016, so the import feature is different. So what I'd recommend you do with all versions of Excel this will work, is we can just double click our CSV file that we've downloaded from the website, and we've brought in that data, and that's all the data there that we would have imported. However, you can see, if I drag that like that, you can see that our first column, these first 3 rows are recognized as dates. They're aligned to the right. It's recognized what format that is. The next columns, it doesn't recognize what they are. So we now need to tell it that they're dates. We need to make it recognize they're American dates, because this is from the New York Lottery. Column B contains all of the winning numbers, but they're all grouped together and there's a space between each. So we want to separate those into 5 different columns. And then column C appears to be empty. If I jump down a little way, there are some bonus numbers in there, so we don't want to overwrite that if we can help it. There's no questions about the bonus numbers, but point 12 on the sheet does say if you want to do extra analysis, you can, and that might include the bonus numbers. So the first thing we do is highlight the first column. On the Data tab, go to Text Columns. It doesn't matter what we choose for this first one. We'll go Next, Next, and we're going to tell it it's a date, but importantly, because it's American, it's the format month, day, year. And if I click Finish, you'll see that they're now all right aligned. Excel recognises all of those as dates. We can do the same with the second column, but first of all let's just take our bonus numbers, cut that column and move it across 4 more columns. So we've now got 5 columns worth of empty cells. So I'm going to select column B, text the columns, it's going to be delimited, next, and the delimiting feature is a space. So every time there's a space, it will convert it to a new column, and you can see there's a preview of that in the box at the bottom here. If I click Next, they're all just going to be general numbers, and if I click Finish, that's now spaced out everything. It's also spaced out my headings. There is a feature to stop that, but it's not too important for this. So that's my first task done. I've managed to open and format the data in the right way. If you're using anything before Excel 2016, then you can tell on the Data tab, you can say Open from Text or CSV and import the data and format it like that straight away, rather than opening it and then applying these filters later, these features later. Task 2 is to get Excel to recognise what day of the week each of these draws took place. So I'm going to, in a new column, column H, I'm going to have the word day, and I'm going to apply a specific text format to each of these dates. So text was the function we were looking at. This is the value we want to apply it to. What format, so place a comma, then what format do we want it to take? And I can either, in quotation marks, either use 3 Ds and get a short day of the week, or I can use 4 Ds and get the full day of the week. Okay. And then when I copy that down, that will be able to do all of these days for the week, and you can see it changes. I can copy that down all the way to the bottom. That jumps all the way down to 6,873. I copied it down quickly by double clicking on the bottom right corner of the highlighted section. Okay, so I've now got all of my days all of my dates, recognised as days of the week. I can start to begin to answer some of the questions. So the first question is, what day did the draw begin on? Now we're deliberately doing this with a small data set so we can jump to the bottom and see the answer to check we're doing it right, so that we know the answer is Friday. Okay, the first draw was on a Friday. If I jump to the bottom of the data, we can see that. So, first day. So in my column where I'm going to put the answer for the first day, I'm going to say equals indirect. There's more than one way of doing this. This is just my way that I find quickest. I know I want to be in column H because that's where my days are. Oops, in quotation marks. Ampersand. Which row do I want to be in? Well, I want to be in the last row, so I want to know how many rows of column H are filled in. So count A, H to H. So that's going to give me, what that's going to do is that's going to say H and then a number, the number of filled in rows in column H. So I'm going to get H 6,873, I think. And then the indirect function will tell me whatever's in H 6,873, which is a Friday. And we know that's correct. The second question then says, when was the second regular draw, on what day of the week did that commence? So if we jump to the bottom of our data, we can see it started on a Friday. If I scroll up, the next regular draw begins on a Tuesday. Okay, so we can do this in a similar way, but we're going to have to filter out all of the Fridays first. So in column I, I'm going to remove Friday. So what I'm going to say is equals if, so if this is a Friday, so if H2 is a Friday, comma, I want it to show a blank cell. Otherwise, so comma, I want it to show the row number. Now what have I done wrong here? I haven't told it what I want it to equal. So, if H2 is a Friday, show a blank cell, otherwise show the row number. Okay. If I copy that down a little way, we can see they're all not Friday, so it will show the row number. Copy it down a little further. This will show a blank cell because H7 is a Friday. Now what I can do with that is I can then send that all the way down to the bottom of my page. When we jump to the bottom of the data, these are all blank because these are all Fridays in column H. And my last cell that's filled in is my first day, second regular draw day, which is a Tuesday. So this is the biggest number in column I. So 6851 will be the biggest number in column I. So second regular draw day is going to be equals, and it's a very similar formula to before. We're interested in column H because that's going to tell me the actual day. Whoops, ampersand, but I want the maximum, the row number from column I. It's the biggest number in column I. And that's just dropped off the screen on the right, but you can still see it in the function bar at the top, which is a Tuesday. So we've taken everything from column H and then the biggest number in column I, which is 6,851, I believe. So H6851, the indirect tells me in that cell it says Tuesday. So that was my second regular draw date. Next question asks for the maximum number. So the maximum number in the draw, that's slightly easier. It's the max of everything from column B to column F. So 39. Nice and easy to apply that one. The biggest number in columns B to column F, and you can see everything in B to F is highlighted. Was that always the maximum number, and how do we know? Well, we can look up what the maximum number was in the very first draw. So the max, in first draw, and that's going to be column F and then row 6873. But we know it's 6873. We can use a formula to work that out, very similar to this one we used for the first day. So I'm going to copy that formula from cell N2, paste it in cell N5, and it will tell me Friday. But I'm not interested in column H anymore. I'm interested in the biggest number, which will appear in column F. So what this is going to do is it's going to tell me the biggest number of the first draw. So column F and the first row of data, which is also my number of rows that are filled in. So the first draw had the number 39 come out in it. So it's always been the biggest number, unless there's a ball number 40 that's never been drawn ever in the history of the lottery. So it's statistically highly unlikely. So 39 is the highest number. That brings us to the question of, are all numbers equally likely? What we can do here, I'll just put some borders in so it's obvious where I'm working. So in column J, I'm going to add the numbers 1 to 39. Now, the flaw of this particular version of Excel is I don't know how far I've dragged. Other versions of Excel, a small number would pop up to tell me how many rows I've dragged down so far. So that should be 39 rows, good. So I'm interested in numbers 1 to 39. I want to know how many times they occur. So equals count if, open brackets, the range I'm interested in, so it will be everything in B to F, comma, the criteria equal to that cell. So how many 1s are there in columns B to F? Close brackets. I can see there's 897. And I can then drag that all the way down, and it will work out how many of each number there are. Now, in terms of statistics and probability, we normally give those between 0 and 1. So we can have the sum of all of those numbers, i.e. how many balls have been drawn total in the history of the lottery. I'm not including the bonus ball in this. 34,360. And then my probability is then each of these numbers of times that each ball has been drawn divided by this same K41. So K41 we always want to be referring to, so I'm going to stick the K and stick the 41. And you can see the probabilities are all approximately the same as I dragged down. And I'll copy that to the bottom. So they're all close enough to say that it's statistically likely, that equally likely for each number to be drawn in this lottery. The next question was whether there were any days where there were five numbers in common. So I'm going to insert some more columns so I've got space to work. Insert a couple of columns. I'm going to reduce some of the size of these so I can try and get everything onto one screen. So, what I'm going to do, because the five numbers are already arranged in ascending order, I can make them into one cell, which is effectively what we had at the beginning. We had if you remember, 5 numbers that we broke because they had spaces in between. Well, if I make them back into one cell as a string of text, using my concatenate or my ampersand function, I've now got a string of text of all 5 of these numbers. I can copy that down. Hopefully that goes all the way to the bottom. It does. So I can see even at the bottom drawer we've got 12, 15, 20, 36 and 39 all merged into one. What I can then do is I can say equals if logic test, and in fact we don't want an if, we want a count if, apologies. What range am I interested in? Well, I'm interested in the whole of column M. I want to know how many in column M look like that number there. So if it's 1, that means this sequence only occurs once. I can copy that down. That could take a little while. You can see the processor at the bottom is ticking away. So what we've then got is we've got a column where everything says 1, apart from somewhere hidden in here there will be some 2s where there are duplicates, where there are the same numbers have been drawn twice, same sequence of numbers has been drawn twice. So I can say how many double or sequences drawn twice. Just pull that back a bit. So in here I'm going to equals count if. The range is then going to be column n. And the criteria is going to be 2. I want to know how many times does it say 2 in there. In fact, let's say greater than 1, just in case anything ever came up that was that came up 3 times, for instance. I can see there were 90 instances of that. Now that means that there were 90 instances where the same numbers came up, but actually that means if we divide by 2, there were 45 instances where the same numbers came up twice, assuming they were all 2.